One of the biggest questions I've had to ask myself over the years until this really got cemented in my mind is, do people with PFS, which is post-finasteride syndrome, characterized by a muting of their sexual function, erections, libido, climax capacity, and general sexual well-being, and people with PSSD, otherwise known as post-SSRI sexual dysfunction, which mimics that, do these people need high loads of androgens consistently to get better? And a lot of the confusion about this comes from people who aren't actually using androgens correctly or may not be using enough androgens to get resolution of their PFS or PSSD. This is a thread that's titled PFS, PSSD, and Androgens, in which a guy tries to make the case that high levels of androgens or androgens in general will be useful for this condition, in which, and again, these communities are their own worst enemy in many cases because people will confidently assert that in this case, you don't need androgens or androgens don't help. And a guy in the comment section, Propecia Help Forum guys have been experimenting for over a decade. This approach does not work for the majority. That is settled. Other guy, exactly. I mean, these are guys right here that are going to cost their own recovery because they think like this. Here's another one. Okay, I've been on TRT and HCG for 2 years. My labs have me in the upper 900s and I'm still not better. People are going to read this and go, well, it must not be testosterone. This kind of stuff right here is actually all over the forums where people have PFS or PSSD. They get on TRT and HCG in this case, and it doesn't resolve their symptoms. People are going to look at that and go, well, it must be allopregnanolone or GABA or the 5-HT1A receptor and all this other nonsense that, though may be somewhat helpful in inducing windows in these cases, is not going to solve your problem. Again, this guy down here did TRT for 3 years with no success. Doesn't specify fucking doses, doesn't specify ester, doesn't specify estrogen control. Okay, it's nonsense. It is the most vague explanation of situations, which again leads people to stay in this confused state regarding how to get better from PSSD and PFS. One critical 2-hour look into the way that androgens maintenance penile tissue architecture and erection quality should give you enough evidence to support the idea that in fact androgens are the necessary restoration tool for people that have serious sexual dysfunction, specifically because of the things that happen when you have androgen deprivation relative to penile architecture, structure, blood vessel function, etc. So in this video, I'm going to make the point that not everybody that has PFS and PSSD needs high loads of androgens, but a good degree of them do. Break down the function between erectile architecture, smooth muscle, cavernosal function, and free testosterone, which matters more so than total testosterone in all of these cases. I'll discuss which esters, which testosterone esters to use in these cases, and exactly how much testosterone you need to be taking to get resolution from PFS, PSSD, or similar conditions. In the meantime, Cortex Labs is a performance optimization and hormone consulting company for men. We got a range of different products ranging from the Torque Nootropic Stack. This is it's basically Adderall without the side effects. Right now, this actually extended, so the special still exists. The code torquebogo gets you buy one, get one free. Source List is a compilation of trusted sources. Those of you with PFS, PSSD, and need to try DHT itself, please take heed. You can get this down in the description of this video. Lastly, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring, sexual dysfunction for men, PFS, PSSD included, largely TRT protocol restructuring. You can hire me for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. Going to take us first to start this off so that you can look at a science-based perspective on the necessity for high levels of androgens in the case of PFS and PSSD, called Androgens Play a Pivotal Role in Maintaining Penile Tissue Architecture and Erection. Let's go all the way down to the section titled Androgens Maintain Penile Cavernosal and Dorsal Nerve Structure and Function. There are so many gems in here, so I'm going to read some of them. Androgens modulate the structure and function of the pelvic ganglia. Giuliano et al., scientists, etc., suggested that androgens modulate erectile function by acting on postganglionic parasympathetic neurons. Armagan et al. Showed that androgen deprivation caused by castration altered the structure of the dorsal nerve. This is a nerve that supplies blood and sensation to the penis. This observation is consistent with those made by Baba et al., in which castration reduced NADPH staining in the cavernosal and dorsal nerves, and testosterone treatment restored those nerves fibers to control levels. Rogers et al. 2003 also demonstrated that castration altered the structure of the dorsal nerve and resulted in venous leakage. This is when the arteries of your penis cannot sustain holding blood and blood leaks out of them, leading to ED. This is a critical sentence here, and I'm going to explain the distinction or why this is important. Testosterone treatment immediately following castration, okay, not after 6 months following castration, but immediately prevented venous leakage and restored intracavernosal pressure. This is the pressure in the main spongy tissue of the penis to values similar to those of intact animals. Interestingly, treatment of castrated animals with vascular endothelial growth factor restored nerve structure and veno-occlusive function. You can't actually get VEGF, but there are things that you can do to increase VEGF. Because androgens have been shown to regulate VEGF expression, it is possible that VEGF synthesis in the corpus cavernosum is downregulated in castrated animals, and testosterone treatment induces VEGF synthesis, thus mediating the androgen-dependent effect on the corpus cavernosum. Next section. Again, I want to hammer this point home how critical androgens are in this case. Androgens maintain penile trabecular smooth muscle structure and function. One of the things that happens in these cases is collagen deposition and a reduction in smooth muscle content in the male penis as a result of androgen deprivation, which happens with the use of finasteride, happens with the use of citalopram, Lexapro, most selective serotonin, if not all selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Androgen deprivation in animal models by surgical or medical castration produce significant reduction and trabecular smooth muscle content, and increased deposition of extracellular connective tissue matrix. This is collagen deposition. This change in tissue architecture is associated with reduction in intracavernosal pressure, so the pressure of the spongy sort of core of the penis relative to blood in response to pelvic nerve stimulation. Furthermore, ultrastructural studies in tissue from castrated animals documented that trabecular smooth muscle appeared disorganized with large numbers of cytoplasmic vacuoles and decreased amounts of cytoplasmic myofilaments. Loss of smooth muscle resulting from androgen deprivation is attributed to an increase in programmed cell death, connective tissue deposition, and adipocyte differentiation from precursor cells. Now, if you continue reading this paper, because we'll be here for an hour if I read all of this, you're just going to continue to find as we go down the list how androgens regulate and optimize penile function, how androgens maintain vascular endothelial structure and function. This is the lining of the blood vessels, the mechanisms by which they do that, prostaglandins, nitric oxide, and how the remodeling or restoration of the endothelial, of an endothelial injury, which you would find in penile fibrosis, which comes from androgen deprivation and a lack of nocturnal erections for a very long time, lack of blood flow, and for a very long time, on a pool of premature circulating progenitor cells and mature circulating endothelial progenitor cells. So restoration depends on these progenitor cells, which are induced by androgens. Let's talk about the necessity for androgens. We're going to go through some papers on androgens and restoring erectile function, as well as the connection between free testosterone specifically and how total testosterone is much less of a crucial biomarker, a facilitating biomarker relative to fixing erection issues and sexual function from PFS or PSSD. Let's go to this paper, Androgens and Penile Erection, Evidence for a Direct Relationship Between Free Testosterone and Cavernous Vasodilation. Again, that's the core spongy area of the male penis. You get dilation, vasodilation of that, opening up of blood vessels when you've got higher levels of free testosterone. They go on to conclude that these results indicate in men with erectile dysfunction that low free testosterone may correlate independently of age with the impaired relaxation of the cavernous endothelial and corporal smooth muscle cells to a vasoactive challenge. Again, these findings give clinical support to the experimental knowledge of the importance of androgens in regulating smooth muscle function in the penis. Another paper on free testosterone titled Free Testosterone Correlated with Erectile Dysfunction Severity Among Young Men with Normal Total Testosterone. They go on to say not even bioavailability or SHBG were really instrumental or influential factors in this case, but low free testosterone level, even in the presence of normal total testosterone, is the association with ED severity in young men. For people trying to truly understand this, there are many more papers on this, one titled The Impact of Testosterone on Erectile Function that I would have you read or urge you to read. Importantly, one titled Post-Finasteride Syndrome, A Surmountable Challenge for clinicians, in which this key paragraph is stated: since 5-alpha dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, plays a key role in erectile physiology, including activation of nitric oxide synthase and increasing blood flow in penile tissue, inhibition of the 5-alpha reductase enzymes by finasteride and dutasteride contributes to erectile dysfunction. Studies in the animal models demonstrated decreased biosynthesis and circulation of 5-alpha DHT, reduced expression and activation of endothelial and neuronal nitric oxide synthases, thus attenuating penile tissue relaxation and resulting in ED. In addition, as we discussed earlier, absence or reduced levels of 5-alpha DHT, or DHT, result in penile trabecular smooth muscle cells death, concomitant with increased deposition of connective tissue, leading to alterations in penile tissue histoarchitecture and impeding its compliance, thus contributing to ED. The consequence of these pathophysiological changes is fibrosis, scarring of penile tissue, leading to poor tissue compliance, venous leakage, and ultimately ED. So again, when you look at back to this Reddit thread, guys like this did TRT for 3 years. This is a PFS person, no success. And again, back on the top, the guy that goes, this is pretty much settled. We've been experimenting for over a decade. This approach, meaning androgens, does not work. Settled. I've seen the opposite to be true. And my contention on the matter simply is, for some of these individuals, they're not using both enough testosterone and the right kind of testosterone. Let me make this super clear. There are a subset of individuals that have PFS and PSSD. Not all individuals. Some of them do fine with just TRT, but some of these individuals are going to have to be increasing free testosterone to between the 500 and the 1000 picograms per milliliter range, which is far, far above the reference range. They're going to need to be sitting somewhere between 2,500 and 3,500 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone in order to get that amount of free testosterone. Some of them are going to require the use of proviron to bind to the SHBG so that more of that free testosterone is available and the free T number goes up. And almost all of these cases, they're going to have to be injecting fast-acting esters that radically increase free testosterone, that hit the system very quickly, but that also convert a lot to DHT, like testosterone propionate and transcranial testosterone cream. Let me give you a good example. So I had a PFS guy that tried every dose of TRT, estrogen management, TRT HCG estrogen management, TRT HCG no estrogen management, some DHT derivatives, Masteron and Primobolan to try to control estrogen and try to stroke the androgen receptors. This guy, and this is not the only guy that I have that this is the case, actually many of these people, we ran 200 milligrams, 250 milligrams, we ran 300 milligrams, we ran 150 milligrams every third day of testosterone cypionate. I mean, we're pushing 450 to 600 milligrams a week. They've obviously ran 120, 130, 80, 90 milligrams, every dose of TRT for 4 weeks at a time, and none of it did anything. On the higher end of the scale with long esters like enanthate or cypionate, I'm talking about 300 milligrams a week plus, they got alleviation from their symptoms to a noticeable degree. So they had some libido, their erections were getting better, they had sparing, but I'd call it infrequent, but still happening, nocturnal erections. I mean, this is huge fucking success for these people that haven't had a nighttime erection in 3 years, 4 years or more. But over time, the longer esters, since they stick around longer, they negatively affect the hematological parameters like hematocrit, hemoglobin, red blood cell production a lot more. They end up, at least at higher doses, being a lot less sustainable. Unless a person's health is in perfect order, they're going to have a hard time high dosing long esters. Now, interestingly, and to the contrary, high doses of testosterone propionate with regular doses of testosterone cream, call it 4 pumps of testosterone cream a day and 50 milligrams of testosterone propionate a day. I've seen variations in this: 100 milligrams of testosterone propionate every other day, 3 pumps of transcranial cream every day. Protocols like this, men are able to achieve between 2,500 and 3,500 or 4,000 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone, which, because of the bioavailable nature of especially testosterone propionate, the DHT conversion from propionate, as well as transcranial cream, these guys are able to achieve between 500 and 1,000 picograms per milliliter of free testosterone. And this is the only way that they're able to achieve that without substantial side effects. In fact, most people feel great at 3,000 total tests and 700 free tests if they're on fast-acting esters, because they peak and then they trough. They don't stick around consistently. They're not just constantly releasing. You just levels shoot up, then they start to trough, then you shoot them up again the next day, then they start to trough. It's almost like you get a break from some of the negative aspects of continuously distributed testosterone. Back to this guy who ran everything up to 600 milligrams of a long ester and got pretty okay results at those higher doses, but ultimately was unsustainable and there were a lot of fucking side effects. A few pumps of transcranial testosterone cream and between 50 and 100 milligrams of testosterone propionate every day, and the guy had his first nocturnal erection, morning erection, random erection, daytime erection, psychogenic erection to touch that he's had for like years, many years. How do you explain this? But importantly, for people that have been androgen deprived and you have collagen deposition, smooth muscle deterioration, vascular endothelial problems in the penis, dorsal nerve and otherwise penile nerve structure problems. Therefore, your penis can't hold blood because you have venous leakage. Since, as I broke down in some of these papers, androgens are the chemicals, the solution, the thing that restores the integrity of all of these structures in the penis relative to erections. Androgens at high levels, fast-acting androgens, are in fact the solution to this problem. In those studies, back to, if you remember in the beginning of this video, I quickly just referenced how immediately after castration in these animal models, then testosterone was able to restore penile function, meaning they didn't give those castrated animals 6 months, the time that people have PFS, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 fucking years, some of these guys 10 years. They didn't give them 10 years and then try androgen therapy to restore penile function. It happened immediately after castration. So of course, testosterone is going to be a lot more effective in that regard, because there is not much time where you've got a castrated male. However, with 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, no nocturnal erections, no erections period, a year, 2 years, forget it, 3 years plus of not having good quality erections, well, then you just have more of all this negative collagen deposition and changes in the dorsal nerve and changes in venous occlusive function, changes in PDE5 expression, PDE5 mRNA in the penis, downregulation of nitric oxide synthase. This is why people get to 900, like that guy in the Reddit thread who just swears off testosterone because he's been on it for 2 years and sits at 900. This is why 900, excuse my French, isn't fucking doing shit. In some of these cases, not all, okay, I just want to make that clear, but in some of these cases, 900 it's meaningless. You might as well just be back to hypogonadal. You're going to need 2,500, 3,500, 4,000 total tests in order to get the 500 to 1,000 picograms per milliliter of free testosterone. And you're going to need to do that consistently, managing your health, watching your hematocrit, taking all the bad habits out of your life, whether smoking, drinking, overeating, not working out. These things are going to have to be necessary as health management strategies for you to be able to sustainably sit at those high levels of testosterone. If you can achieve that using, again, fast-acting, short duration esters and not testosterone enthate and not testosterone cypionate, and stay there for long enough, that is your best shot at recovering the ultrastructure, the dorsal nerve function, the endothelium, the venous occlusive functions, the PDE5 expression, and the endothelium and blood vessel function of the male penis. So in my time doing coaching on this, I have seen recovery of PFS. Not everybody, because not everyone complies. People will drop out. They want to try different things. Some people just want to not listen to my suggestions, and then that's whatever. People want to think that like lithium or a GABAergic or something that affects allopregnanolone is going to help. These things are not going to fix you. The people that do comply and we're able to get them sustainably through modification of lifestyle so they can tolerate it up to these levels of particularly free testosterone, that's where they get erections back and libido back. But just like when you break an arm, you break a bone, it's got to sit in a cast for how long, right? 2 months, 3 months or so. And you can't fuck with it. You can't move it. It has to heal. This stuff has to heal, meaning you're going to have exposure to super physiologic levels of specifically free testosterone for unknown period of time, as long as you can manage it, as long as you're healthy, as long as your lipids look okay. And in some cases, guys may want to sacrifice that to get erectile function back. I mean, you know, if your LDL sitting at 120, 130, HDL's at 42, but you know, your dick's starting to work again and you're getting reversal of these life-ruining symptoms, you might want to consider continuing to do that. I want to encourage people with PFS and PSSD and otherwise serious sexual dysfunction where there was androgen deprivation for a long time, not to get dissuaded or discouraged by people that have not pushed their testosterone levels above 1,000. And that are on the forums going, we've tried all this and this doesn't work. My argument is that for some of those individuals, their free testosterone wasn't high enough for long enough, you know, to put it as simply as possible. I know those individuals did not use 70 milligrams, 80 milligrams testosterone propionate a day with a few pumps of transcranial cream per day or per every other day. They were using regular testosterone, having levels in between 700 and even 1200. And again, for a lot of these guys, that's not doing anything. There are a lot of tools in the arsenal to treat PFS. It's not just about high levels of androgens. You know, when you get up in that territory, estrogen becomes problematic. So usually people need to manage that with Primobolan, Masteron, Proviron, AIs. Not everybody needs to, interestingly, but some people need to. The critical thing I want to get across to people in this is to understand that you're going to need sustained high levels of free testosterone. The literature supports this. The scientific literature actually lays out exactly what happens to penile architecture in the presence of reduced or diminished 5-alpha DHT or dihydrotestosterone, as well as androgen deprivation. And the literature also, if you map it out, which I have taken years to do, lays out very distinctly that androgens are in fact the solution. However, that literature is never going to suggest between 500 and 1,000 milligrams picograms per milliliter of free testosterone, right? Responsibly, they can't suggest that, nor have they ever actually tested it. It's only us guys on the ground that have been testing that successfully. And, you know, part of my job in this channel is to bring that information out to the community, whether it's PFS, PSSD, because this is also the case in elevated prolactin for years at a time. Prolactinomas, kratom-induced hyperprolactinemia, high-dose consistent marijuana-induced hyperprolactinemia. These guys all have the same symptoms. The prolactinoma guys, which is elevated prolactin for 4 or 5 years, they have the same exact symptoms, and those guys respond to high levels of free testosterone, very high levels of free testosterone. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Please share it if you, have the inclination to do so. If you have questions in the comments, post them. I'll get to them as soon as I can, or to the best of my ability. Again, I'm a coach on this stuff. I mean, this is the bulk of what I do. A good degree of it is TRT protocol restructuring, but for some of those guys, their protocols aren't straight and their erections and libido are subpar. So hire me for either the one-off call. It's strictly a consult where I'll redesign your protocol, or if you need ongoing help, whether it's PFS, PSSD, hyperprolactinemia, sexual dysfunction in general that's not responding to regular levels of androgens, we're going to need 3 months minimally. Ideally, if you have the budget, 6 months plus. This stuff takes time. A good degree of the sexual function stuff takes time. You can hire me for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. For those of you that want to explore on your own, okay, to go get DHT, testosterone of all esters, Proviron, anything you can think of to aid in your recovery of these kinds of things, I built a product called Sourceless, which has a trusted list of vetted vendors for all anabolics, ancillaries, and hormone hacking agents. For everybody else that's interested in this stuff, you can get Sourceless down in the description below. It is 50% off right now. The code is SOURCE, and you can find that down in the description. Again, Torque Stack. It's a nootropic that is like Adderall without the side effects. It is buy one, get one free right now. The code for that is torquebogo. You know, all that stuff in the description of this video. All right, everybody. Happy Monday. It's been great hanging out with you. Hope you had a great weekend. Much more content coming soon. Live stream this Saturday. Actually, you know what? I won't be able to do a live stream this Saturday. I'll be away. Sub to the channel. Like the video. It makes a huge difference, boys. Content coming this week. Look forward to that. And hope you have a great day.